Today, we have an important guest. He's a mentor, a philanthropist, a business owner. He goes by the name of Mr. Canute Sadler. Mr. Sadler, welcome to another episode of Influencers in Agriculture. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for meeting with me at such short notice.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. Mr. Sadler, let's get right into the questions. Can you summarize your journey in the field of agriculture and agro-processing?
Well, my journey really started with my training. I attended Nakalva back in 1950, graduated in 1961. And from there, I went on to the School of Agriculture, where I studied agriculture. And from the School of Agriculture, University of Missouri, I graduated and worked for Ralston Purina Company, who had a factory in Jamaica at the time, going by the name of Jamaica Feeds. That's how it started. Of course, I strayed a little away from agriculture as the time progressed, and came back into agriculture, mostly agriculture, Agroprocessing, in 1991, having acquired Fletcher Bowman Limited out in St. Thomas, at the time engaging in the manufacturing of all agricultural products, mainly Akis, Colorado jerk season, and other juices. And from there onward, I just extended the business, and my interest continued to grow. I have become a major manufacturer of agricultural products, agro-processing, of course, and exporter over the years.
Excellent. So why did you choose agro-processing to be specific?
Agro-processing came to me just as a matter of chance. I wouldn't say that I chose it. The opportunity arose back in 1991 when the factory that I now own came on the market for sale. And of course, I was introduced to it, and I acquired the factory. So from there onwards, I just expanded on the business. So we would say it was just an opportunity arriving at the right time.
Right time. Excellent. Could you elaborate on the crops you are doing value-added production?
Well, our main crops right now, main products right now is the ackee. And we're one of the largest processors of ackee and exporters of ackee, mainly to the United States, Canada, and UK. The next crop that we indulge a lot in is the manufacture of canned callaloo. Canned callaloo has increased in volume from approximately 5,000 cases a year to about 40,000 cases a year. We are now doing. It's our intention to go to 100,000 cases a year as the time progresses, and we expect to reach that target within the next 2 years. Another product is the jerk season. This is a hard journey for us because of the competition with Walker's Wood and other players in the market, but we're gradually seeing those sales climb. So year by year, we have increased our portion of the market. The next crop that we're looking at due to our extended program is the factory in Darlistan that we bought over last year, and we're now processing pineapple slices, pineapple tidbits, pineapple trunks, and pineapple juices. This is a major opportunity that we looked at because there's no factory in Jamaica that processes pineapple products. And based on the present market price to import as against manufacturing, we have an advantage. The only problem we are going to see, and we expect this problem to be solved, is for farmers to indulge in production of pineapple and to produce pineapple at a price. We will be comfortable to manufacture and sell to the domestic market and possibly look at some export.
Excellent, sir. How can farmers reach out to StanMark? Because I know you buy from farmers all year round. Could you tell us the process?
Well, at the present, we have memoranda of understanding with certain farmers. Growing callaloo is one of them. Growing hot peppers is one of them. And now the pineapple, which is a new venture. So we, in a certain sense, give farmers a certain guarantee to buy at a certain price. And we are looking at the extended value to provide some other farmer input. We have just been approached by a company who sells organic fertilizer. So that is something we are looking at. This is a new venture. So we're looking at the possibility of providing some input to our regular farmers that we can rely on in the terms of fertilizer, subsidization, and down the road, farmers qualify, we might look at some financial inputs depending on the reliability of the farmer. So that in a sense will guarantee us a level of supply, which we are looking at. Pineapple business is a major business. At the present, government imports substantial amount of pineapple products into the country. And we believe we can fill that gap. We have modern equipments in place, not the regular hand equipment. These are automated packaging machines, state of the art, which have not been established in Darlington. And we believe over time we will be able to fulfill the domestic demand and to look at the possibility of export.
Yes, thank you, sir. Just want to zone in on, because I know that you're a guru in terms of the field of business and you're expert on economics. What's your advice to entrepreneurs in 2021 and beyond?
Well, entrepreneurship is not an easy enterprise. Going into business is not easy. And people going into business should first have the necessary resources to go into business. If you're going into agriculture, you must have land. You must have affordable land, and you have to select your crops that you're going to plant. If you're going into tree crops, then that's another area also. You must have the amount of land determined based on the level of output that you're going to look at. You must also have good markets. You must look at your market position. Determining the basic fundamental is what to plant, how much you're going to plant in order to, and what price you're going to sell your products at in order to provide revenues for yourself. So farmers have to look carefully at their markets and make sure they have all the necessary resources in place, or most of the resources in place, in order for you to enter into the business.
Yes. And how can these farmers or entrepreneurs diversify their business portfolio?
Well, diversifying your business portfolio is going to depend on, as I said, the markets that you're looking at. So you have to, as I said, assess your market conditions and assess exactly what you're going to put into the business, and knowing whether or not you can simply make money out of it. One of the problems with a lot of farmers is that they grow too many crops on one piece of land. They do not practice the basic economic program of substitution based on your income effect. You should, if you have 20 acres of land, you assess whether or not you can grow pineapple, or you can grow cassava, or whatever crop you want to grow. You shouldn't attempt to grow too many products on the one piece of land, because usually when a farmer is growing 2 products on one piece of land, usually one crop might be doing much better than the other one. So farmers should try and exercise the practice of specialization, what you're good at, so that you can maximize your output from the land based on your input that you're putting into it. That is my advice to any young farmer going into business at this time.
Yes. Mr. Sadler, I know that you have done extensive work with the youth in agriculture at the Nakalva School of Agriculture and the College of Agriculture in Jamaica. Can you share that experience?
Well, to put it in a short term, I sit on both boards, College of Agriculture, and I also sit on the board at Nakalva, which is now Nakalva Polytechnic College. I must say that I'm a student of both institutions, and we operate large processing factories here, one in Darlaston and one in St. Thomas. And what we do, we target employees who work with us, children, and those children have already passed 4 or 5 subjects, GC, and we sponsor them into the college. At the moment, we have about 10 students at Nakalva and School of and CASE, which is now CASE, studying agricultural science. And this part of all we have given back to the institution to provide good education, agricultural education to people who want to go into the industry.
Excellent. Sir Sadler, the state of agriculture and what you're seeing in Jamaica. Can you kind of comment on
that? Very good question. If we were to retrace our history in agriculture and agricultural development over time, you will see what you see today is not what existed several years ago. Everywhere you turn in the countryside now, you see pure trees, bushes. In my time, it was like that. There were pastures everywhere, and there was coconut trees everywhere. There was banana cultivation, cocoa cultivation, all major crops were all over Jamaica. And of course, when you go into areas like Trelawney, Hanover, the yam cultivation was just about everywhere. It is not the same today. So you find that most of our agricultural products are in decline. There's no coconut, there's no cocoa, there's no banana, and there's no coffee. So what do we have? There's no substitution either. So what we have is imports, imports, imports. If you look on our root crops, everything is imported. $1 billion worth of products are imported in agricultural produce at this point. And what the government needs to do is to come up with a short-term, a medium, and a long-term program to feed the nation. What we experience in the government have a 5-year plan. In my meetings with the government the last time, the minister the last time, he had a 5-year development plan. You can't develop agriculture in a 5-year plan. You have to have a long, short, medium, and long-term plan. And in the long run, your 3 crops are going to be your major products. Your coconut plants, your mango plants, your avocado plants, those are your cocoa plants, your coffee plants. Those are going to be your major income in the long term, because those crops, 20, 30 years, are still producing. But we don't seem to have a program designed to provide real income in the long run. What we have is stopgap plans. And although governments run 5 years, you can't run a plan for 5 years. Yeah, but what the government has is a 5-year plan. And very little in it. And on in your research section for you to develop. You can't run an agricultural program without research. And we're lacking in that. So unless the government get back to basics and start providing all those services, right? Then your education. You're educating people, and then at the long run, where are you going to put them to work? You're running so many students to the College of Agriculture and Nakalva and those agricultural institutions. But do you have the work? Where will the students go and work? In my time, I graduated and I had 4 or 5 jobs waiting on me. You don't have that today. So government has to address the basic issues of providing the education that is going to be necessary. If you don't educate people and educate them properly, and at the same time, you must have places for them to go and work at the end of the day. So you must have the infrastructure in place. And we're lacking that at this time. We're hoping they will address it in the future.
Yes, most definitely. How can policy makers make policies to help farmers and agricultural enterprises become more profitable?
Well, the policy makers are basically the government, as we're saying them have come up with good plans. And I said policy makers must come up with short, medium, and long-term plans to develop agriculture too. They make resources available to those people who have the technology and have the desire to go into agriculture production. What we find is a lot of people get lands to put in a lot of crops and sit on the land. Previous governments give it to all these farmers and they give them 5-acre plots and they sat on the land. Then nobody produces anything. Government have to insist that when you get land to people, is that within certain timeline, they have to have certain economic development of all these lands and proper policing of the lands and the projects to ensure that they are viable. You also have to make finances available at reasonable cost. That means if you're lending money to a farmer, you must ensure that the cost of that money is good enough for him to produce what he has to produce and make a profit. Then you have to make sure that the markets, the atmosphere for the markets, all these subsidies, all these products that were imported, government have to come in with a policy, cut them off, and to make it in such a way why it is not economical for a man to import it. So you spend that $1 billion a year in a small economy like this to people bringing in food and various items. Small economy like Jamaica, $1 billion worth of import. We ever hear that? You have to create a situation whereby the policies has to be there so that domestic products can substitute for the imports and keep most of the money here. I'm not saying you don't have items you have to import. You can't produce everything. But you must create the atmosphere whereby government must have the policies and set them up in such a way so that the domestic farmer will find a way to survive. Milk is one of the major problems. Although dairy was so thriving in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. But you bring in milk powder, you give everybody a free run on milk powder. What happened? The dairy industry died. I have friends who had large farms, 300 herd milking, and have to sell them to make patties. So the entire industry collapsed because of poor government policy. So you need policy in place to protect domestic production. If you get that going, then you're going to have a more prosperous economy in the long run. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, open up markets. When you open up markets, let the man import the goods and bring it in, at the detriment of most of the people in the country. You can't do that. Every country protect their industry. You can't take milk and sell it to the United States. If you decide you're going to ship milk products into America, they ban you. They tell you they don't want it. Why? They're protecting their industry in the United States. In the same way, if you're sending so much sugar into the EU or US, they tell you no, they have a tariff on it, tax on it, so as to hold you to the point where you don't want to ship it, because it costs too much to ship it. What are they doing? Protecting their own industry. What do we in Jamaica? We open it up and let everybody bring in. We can't do that. Government must set the play in such a way whereby we protect our own industry to a certain extent. Thank you.
Yes. Finally, Mr. Sadler, what do you do for fun and what keeps you going after all these years?
Well, I have a passionate desire to constantly work. I've been working from I know myself. I get up, I have habits, good habits that I develop. I'm at this Nakalva Polytechnic College. I get up every morning at 4 o'clock. If every morning I lie in my bed and I'm not up, I don't feel good, I have to come out the bed, drink my coffee, and I have a desire constantly to be doing something. And even at my old age, I'm constantly working, and I don't have any desire to sit down. When a man says, why don't I retire? I say, well, they retire enough to retire when I'm 6 foot down. so in the meantime, I find something to do every day that I get up. If I'm not doing something bad, I'm totally bored.